I've got just weird shit everywhere. These are real cannonballs off of a real shipwreck. I'm not even supposed to have these. Have them. This is I've had followers reach out with anything weird, all the weird shit you can imagine. They reach out to you and say, "Hey, do you want this? Do you want this?" So I've got quite the collection of really weird shit. Some of it I think is haunted. There's a lot of weird shit that goes on over here. I've got crazy artifacts. But this right here, I've got 2 of these. These are actually cannonballs that were found out in Pensacola Pass after a big hurricane. It unearthed a shipwreck.
Wow. And
on the skeleton of the ship. And I had some guys dove down and got some of these. I've got 2 of these on me. So I'm even wanting to use some of these things. This may be from like the 1400s or the 1600s, man. There's no telling.
Hello and welcome to the podcast. This is a new
everybody.
podcast. It might have been like demon possessed. It was a fairly large, mutated-looking chicken. We were born in the north, but we grew up in the south.
We learned all of our words from Pennsylvania.
And people are, that's toboggan. That little toboggan
Not
there.
a toboggan. A toboggan is a sled. Okay.
0.3 inches, baby.
Dude, I can't take it. Thank you guys so much for joining us here on this week's episode with a guest. Today we have a really awesome individual. You actually introduced me to his Instagram, and then and I started following because he's doing some awesome stuff. He's actually a real life blacksmith.
Yeah.
He is Pirate Forge is his brand. He does awesome stuff. He makes swords,
Very
knives.
cool swords.
All kinds of stuff, really high quality things.
Yeah.
And he does it all from his shop, and he's got an awesome, unique brand. And so I just want to introduce you to Wayne.
What's going on, guys?
Hey, so tell us a little bit about when you got started, a little bit of your backstory, getting into and discovering that you enjoyed forging, you enjoyed blacksmith work.
Well, it's kind of a crazy story. I was born and raised here in Northwest Florida, Pensacola, Florida, to be exact. And out here where I grew up, I grew up basically out in the back. Went to a little small school, spent a lot of time back in the river swamps, always in the woods. But, you drive 30 minutes and you're at the Gulf. So, I mean, dude, it's freaking paradise. But growing up like that, growing up out in the country, I was always working with my hands, was taught hard work. And got done with high school, and I didn't really do with my life, so I figured I'd go into healthcare. So I actually became a nurse.
Mm-hmm.
I was got my bachelor's science. Actually ran a 26-bed ICU, CBICU, was the charge nurse and assistant nurse man. And but I felt something was lacking. I don't know. I helped people, and it was awesome, but I couldn't really be myself. I had to go into work disguised as like this clean cut critical care. And it wasn't me, And I built a pirate bar at my house. We'll talk about that later. That's a whole nother story too. But custom dungeon doors, like a 4-inch thick dungeon door, and I wanted to put a Mortise lock on it. And so that takes a skeleton key. And this Mortise lock came with was like standard size for a standard door, so it wouldn't fit. So I saw those people on the Forged in Fire TV show. I was like, hell, I said, that shit, I can do it. Whatever. I went and bought like a map gas forge, a little cheap anvil, and dude, I forged me a key. I forged a freaking skeleton key for this dungeon door, and that's what started. I'm sitting right in my bar, right over here, and one thing led to another, man, and just like a snowball, it just started rolling, and it's still rolling. So I'm not even a nurse anymore. I quit that. I'm a full-time bladesmith.
That's awesome. Point. So it all started with you forging a key.
Yeah. Forged skeleton.
Wow.
How long before you actually went on the show did you see the Forged in Fire stuff and figure you could do it?
Well, I mean, it was once I started forging, I was on a TV show after 8 months experience. I was on History Channel's Knife or Death, which thing where you take a weapon and you had to go compete on like this obstacle course. And so I only experienced, and I made this big ass two-handed chopper, and it's actually talking about it. It's right here. If you guys can see this, it's got like a handball bat, and it's got a big blade. Now I've ground it down since the show, but 8 months into my craft as a bladesmith, I went on that TV show Knife or Death, and it was crazy. It was awesome. But I just kept building, and at a year and a half, I went on Forged in Fire. So fire with a year and a half experience.
The falchion you made on Forged in Fire after a year and a half. That's insane.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Right now makes that thing look like a child's toy, bro. The Damascus was on point, but what they don't tell you is on Forged in Fire, man, they only give you 38 hours. That's it. They say 4 days at your home forge. It's not 4 days, because I work 16-hour days. It's 3 8-hour days and one, three 10-hour days and 1 8-hour day. 38 hours is all you got.
I kind of figured it was something like that, because they got to get you back out there and stuff. So, yeah.
I'm curious, how did you get connected to be able to be on that show? Because we actually just watched it this past week to get caught up and everything, to a little bit of research on you. And first off, I mean, you won your competition between 3 other guys, which is awesome, but it seemed really grueling. It seemed obviously fast-paced. It seemed kind of like you didn't want, like you wanted to make a great blade, which you did, but it felt like you were worried you weren't going to be able to get there because of the time restraint. And I'm sure it might be a little bit of just editing and the drama of the show. But how did you kind of come to get on that competition show?
What they do is they have, back whenever I was on it, they're scouring over social media, Facebook and Instagram. And I think any kind of bladesmith they saw that looked entertaining or had some skill, they'd actually reach out to you, the casting agents, and they would send you a message. Hey, we'd like to see you on History Channel's Forged in Fire. Go fill out our application. So you fill out the application, they look at it and decide if they want you. So it ends up being like 2 different interviews. First, they'll tell you they're interested. Then you fill out a more detailed interview with the background check. And then after that, you actually do a Skype interview. But yeah, that's how I got on there. They just saw me doing ridiculous shit. And because I came out of the gate going wide ass open, man. I was never in slow gear. I came out kicking. And so I think I made a little bit of I drew some attention. So
yeah,
I mean, it definitely drew attention. I watched, I was on like a mad binge of Forged in Fire. So I was watching episode after episode, and, you know, just analyzing how people reacted in that situation. And from the looks of things, you were really kind of chill compared to some of the other guys I've seen. And you were just doing your thing. And then, you know, it seemed like you sort of just challenge after challenge.
You just crushed it.
Yeah. Right? In almost a laid back kind of way. Is that how it felt when you were there?
I was a man on a mission, man. I was a man on a mission. I was still working as a nurse, constantly being hit with the dilemma of, do I go full time or not? Because, you know, I had a really good paying job. I was a high profile nurse running the unit. Like, you know, most bladesmiths, it's not going to be the same way of living, you know, to go be a professional bladesmith, and it's very hard as a bladesmith. So to me, I was looking for as many signs as I could find to tell me, hey, you can do this. Screw what all the haters say and people that say you can't make a job out of this. And like, for me, I was like, okay, if this is my destiny, if this is what I'm meant to do, I'll win this. So, and I wanted it so bad. I think I was going into this like, hell with it. I was going to win that damn competition at all costs. So yeah, I mean, really cool in the thing when I watched it, but dude, I was sure enough fueled with desire and just, I mean, everything I had, I felt like my life was depending on that show. But you know, it's kind of ridiculous because the show isn't everything at that time, man. It's kind of like the World Series for a bladesmith, you know, getting on there, taking your mark.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's really cool.
I'd like to dive into a little bit about why the pirate brand? Why all the skeletons? Why the pirate flag on the ceiling that I've seen in multiple pictures? Why the I saw a YouTube video where you had like, I guess it was a steel skull or something, and you just go to town, you know, banging on you know,
an ingot of steel.
Yeah. And so why the pirate brand?
Well, like I've kind of always been somewhat dark, man. But the thing is, I'm actually one of the guys, man. I fight on the good side, but I'm one of the folks that really walk around the line of darkness, man. And it makes me feel comfortable, all that stuff. And it's really me being me. I mean, if you guys can see where I'm at, man, I'm surrounded by just old kinds of crazy antiques and shit that would scare the hell out of a lot of people, man. But I just love it. I think it brings a lot of, you know, not necessarily magic or whatever you want to call it. There's definitely some special goes on over here. But what started the whole Pirate Forge thing was, man, is when we bought this house, it had a big shop and it had an office. And it was time to have a Halloween party. So the office looked like hell. It was painted orange. I painted it all black. I hung up a bunch of skeletons and Halloween decorations and shit. We had an awesome, crazy party. The whole shop was a haunted house. And when we got done, I was like, you know what? I want to keep it like this year round. But I was like, I don't want people to think I'm some kind of a damn Satan worshiper. I was like, so let's call it the Pirate Bar. And dude, it just stuck. But I mean, people have always called me a pirate, man, because I don't know, just my style, I guess. I'm a little bit of a hippie, and not like a hippie, like a peace and flowers kind of hippie, more like a go to fucking battle with a huge battle axe kind of. Maybe it's not the word. What's a gypsy kind of? I'm just talking about those kinds of people, and people just all told me, dude, you look like a pirate. You look like a pirate. I mean, I'm not trying to be a pirate. I'm just being me, but I do live on the coast. I do love being out in boats and doing shit. You know, as a pirate, man, you don't have to have a peg leg and an eye patch and a parrot. I think it's a mentality. Yeah. You want something, you go out there, take that. You know, you don't give up to defeat. And so yeah, I just kind of own it. It's just me, and I think it's unique. And so yeah, Pirate Forge. We got skulls and skeletons. Everywhere. Skeletons on the ceiling right now, right up above me. There's a whole skeleton up here, but you want to see that?
Yeah, let's see it.
Probably, but
oh, that's cool.
Nice.
We see it a lot in your blades. I mean, just going down through Instagram and looking at the blades, they have a pirate kind of aesthetic, and it's definitely your look, and it's really cool. I remember the first thing I shared to Joe of your page was the sword. Mm-hmm. Was a sword, right? But what caught my eye was you did I guess it would be more of a sheath for a big cleaver knife, and it was wrapped. It had the hemp wrap, right? But it looked like it was charred flesh, which I thought was cool. I mean, I don't know if that was how it was supposed to look, but it had almost a charred flesh look.
It took me like a whole day to skin the person out that I made that out of, man. No, I've never had any training from anybody. You know, so many people these days, they all want a crash course to it, which that's bullshit. If you want to do something, get out there and do it. And I think if you've got the drive, you can make it happen. But for me, I never had anyone to show me how to do things. So I think that's why my so unique, is because I wasn't really influenced by anyone. I've learned as I go, really influenced by my life. You know, you see me do a lot of this hemp and whatnot on my blades. Well, part of living out in the country, a lot of us guys made our own knives. My great granddad was a bladesmith of sorts. He worked at a sawmill, like in the 1950s or 1940s. He worked at a sawmill. And he would bring the old blades home and make blades out of them. I remember as a little child walking around my great-grandparents' house and just seeing knives just stuck everywhere. And but, you know, they made them out of necessity. And even whenever I was in high school, when I turned 16, I worked at a greenhouse working out in more of a landscaping job. But then I commercial catfish under the table. I went out there and I ran bush hooks every evening and every morning after and before school and catch catfish, would skin them out and sell them to the locals as a way to make cash. But the blade that I used every day was a blade my uncle made, and it was an old saw blade repurposed into like this wicked looking fillet knife, and it was wrapped with twine and stabilized with, I think, fiberglass.
Wow.
So like stuff like that. It's just growing up where I grew up. A lot of that has kind of molded me and molded my style, man. And yeah, but it's cool stuff. Good question though.
Yeah.
Do you have something you want to?
I wanted to just come around. Did you go into a lot of study since you went with the Pirate brand? Did you go into a lot of study about like how maybe cutlasses were made, or what kind of design, what kind of most effective, depending on their combat that they had during that time? Or do you just make what you want to make, you know?
Yeah, dude, I didn't look up nothing. I make what I want to make, and starting day one, I beat the crap out of every blade I made, and I've always gone really big on any of my cut tests. Like I said, you see me doing a lot of cut tests on flesh and bone, big wild hogs, and I've learned how to change that blade geometry. And also, I've become a better swordsman myself because doing this stuff every day. And so yeah, all my stuff is trial and error, and evidence-based practice. I'm breaking some of that nursing knowledge, and all nursing is evidence practice. So I take these blades, chop nails, steel, huge bores in half, and I take that evidence of what I did to make it happen, and I just keep building on it. I'm a little bit of a mad scientist too when it comes to metallurgy and heat. There's a lot of behind the scenes stuff I can't show because I don't want people knowing what I do. But there's a lot of special stuff that goes on here, more than what meets the eye.
Do you have a specific steel that you like, or do you have something that you've sort of Frankensteined yourself that you use that's preferable to you?
I've got a little bit of everything, but the biggest thing I can tell people is do not get caught up in steel type hype. Is something that people think since it's a certain steel, it has that certain property. That's a bunch of crap. It's all about the heat treat someone's putting on that steel. Now, it's smarter and it's better as a smith to work with certain steels, master those, and stick with them. But there's definitely steels that are better than others. The steel that I would use the most, carbon-wise, is 80 CRV2. Yeah. It's like a super spring steel, really badass stuff. That's what I use a lot. And one of the things that I did do and make my own was something I call Death Damascus. It's a blend of 15 and 20, which is nickel alloy carbon steel with the 80 CRV2. I use that in my figured out a way to heat treat that, get super tight grain. It's able to really stand up at a higher Rockwell hardness and take these fine edges, and you see it just whizzing through these big bores and whatever else I throw at it. But it makes it special because in the land of bladesmithing, usually Damascus, you want two shallow hardening steels. You want the steel to be the same. So whenever you heat treat it, you're in that fast quench or you're in that slow quench, what you're using. And that's why when I first started using 15 and 20 and 80 CRV2, everyone was like, you can't do that. The cooling curves are off. It's deep. 80 CRV2 is deep hardening, 15, 20 shallow hardening. Again, a bunch of little people, that believe what everyone else tells them, and they're scared to go off and venture on their own. So I said, this shit, I did it. I tested it, and it's incredible. Now there's a lot of bladesmiths that are actually using that blend, the 80 CRV2 with 15 and 20. Once you get the higher layer counts, it's becoming so homogeneous that it becomes nice and even, and you can put a nice even heat treat on it. So that's a lot of information, but that is Death Damascus.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah,
I've been following the blacksmithing stuff for quite a while. I mean, me and my friend, when we were 16, we were trying to make our own knife, and it was looking really cool too. We were just using spring steel from a truck spring that we had used an angle grinder, and we had cut out and we had shaped it. We got the whole thing forged out and then quenched it in water. And just snap the blade in half. Yeah. Yeah.
You were 16?
Yeah. He's made some really cool stuff, my buddy. He's made some cool stuff since then. Yeah. But, yeah.
I'm working with meteorite now, man. I've got about 5 pounds of DeCampo and Gibeon meteorite shavings. I'm about to be forging a sword out of meteorite, like the whole thing out of meteorite Damascus. So that's going to be pretty crazy.
That's cool.
Whew. I'm curious. Now, I think more of like a filmmaker because it's something I'm passionate about. Obviously, like I'm really into woodwork as more of my craft. I'm really into swords and knives more as like a collector kind of. I haven't really gotten into me actually doing any kind of forging. However, I'm first and foremost always pay attention to film and production value. You have some incredible production value on even the simple little Instagram videos you do. And you're also building your YouTube as well. And I'm seeing like laser lights. I'm seeing fog machines. Yeah. I'm seeing all kinds of different stuff. Not like skeletons everywhere, you know?
Yeah.
Candles everywhere.
Looks cool.
And all to display and show off not only the brand, but also your piece of work. And it's really high production value. Not many entrepreneurs, especially when like you're kind of self-made and you're still like, you're not figuring things out. You're well into it. But a lot of times people just don't take the time to put production value in their marketing. So what got you into being so passionate about that? Because you do it a lot.
Because, man, whenever I do something, I don't do anything half-assed. I'm putting everything. Whenever I started doing this, I started forging blades. It was almost like a rebirth. I felt like I was born. And I felt like I found what I was meant to be doing. And for me, this isn't a joke. This isn't even about making money. I want to be the best damn bladesmith in the world, and I'm not stopping until I am. So you could call it being cocky. I'm not calling it that. It is confidence, just because I know I work my ass off. But I'm not stopping. I'm all in. I've given up everything. I have left a job, what society told me to do, go make that job, go get that job with that bachelor's degree that makes all the money, work your way up through the ranks. Screw that shit, man. We're only here for one life, and then you're dead and gone, and it happens fast. You got to do what you want to do. And like I said, I feel so driven to do this. Everything I do is just me going all in. This is all in. No, kind of a kamikaze mission, dude. Like I said, I will get to the top, and that's my thing. So I'm not, like I told people, I don't want to just sell a blade. I want to be a legend.
Yeah.
So, and I'm just, as I've only got 3.5 years experience right now.
Wow.
That's crazy.
So I'm self-taught, and every week I'm learning more and more. So like I said, if I've been able to do this much in such a short time, where am I going to be in another 3 years? So, and things are getting crazy, man, because it's like, it's kind of a snowball effect. Things just keep happening. And as soon as I start to doubt, something happens, and it's like, no, stay true to course, keep going. And so yeah, dude, everything 110%, I'm all in.
That's awesome. Go ahead.
You can see the passion.
Oh,
you can see the passion in the videos and in the work in everything. I love there's a couple of channels I follow, like Free Hill Blades and a couple of other ones, and they make beautiful work. But it's a specific style, and the blades are sort of similar. Everything you make is different. There's something new every time, and it's crazy stuff. It's like Cold Steel. Cold Steel is always making crazy swords and knives and whatever, and you just take what you want to do and make it, and that's inspiring to me.
Oh yeah, it's very inspiring. Also, your confidence is incredibly inspiring. You're saying, you definitely recognize the pattern that people just fall in line with their career, with what they think they have to be doing to support a family, to support themselves. They just kind of fall in line with what culture tells them to do. You're doing something that is not even like on the list of stuff, but it's beyond awesome. So I'm curious, how do you, like, if you come across someone where you feel like they want to step out like you did, but they're not quite there, what are you telling them? Like, are you telling them like, hey, just try it out once. You'll find a passion like I did, you know?
I tell them they'll know when the time's right. And I tell them, don't leave anything back. I said, whenever you're an old man, you don't want to be sitting here regretting and asking yourself, what if I would have done that? You know, opportunities only come so many times in a lifetime. And you got to get out there and kick ass. And if you want, it means if you want it, but it's only if you want it. Everybody talk's cheap. Anyone can say, hey, I want to do that. I'm going to do that. Talk's cheap. Get your ass out there and get moving. You know, people don't know my backstory, dude. I've had so much shit that I've had to overcome and deal with to do what I do. So much shit. This is not easy. It is not easy. I sacrificed everything to do what I'm doing. And then too, you know, having so many people tell me that I couldn't do, so many people laughing at me and other shit just fueled me just to be great. And if anything, that's what I want to do. I want to inspire others to be themselves, you know. And that's another thing. It's not going to work if you try to be somebody that you're not, or be something that you're not. I got to the point where I don't give a shit what someone thinks about me. I'm going to do what the hell I want to do. And believe it or not, guys, when you start doing that and becoming comfortable with yourself, things happen. I think people can respect you for that. And so yeah, that's my thing. Be true to self. Do what you want to do. Do what you love. Find your passion, and make it happen.
That's awesome. I know that we've talked to a number of people. We actually had someone on last week who's an tree arborist, and he said kind of the same thing. He said, you just got to get out there and work. Like, don't just sit around thinking, or don't just sit around not working. The way to grow, the way to be passionate about something, the way to keep moving your life in the direction it needs to go is to actually get out there and work. And so I think that's a great message. Going back to the pirate thing, you have sort of a flair to you, and you said to yourself, and you said that people's always kind of said, hey, you look like a pirate, you act like a pirate or whatever. And it comes across in your brand. Is that something that's just natural? Like, just like the dressing your shop up, you know, you have a pirate bar, you have all these things, dressing it all up, making it feel, is that something you would do even if you didn't have a brand? Is that something you would just make your house look like?
It was already like, guys. Already like, this makes me feel comfortable. When I surround myself with stuff like this, I feel like I'm in my happy place. And like I said, it's crazy. My whole house is like this. My house, it looks like, I call it Wayne Manor. I live on about 2 acres, but I'm totally secluded, surrounded by woods and a creek. So it's like a moat that surrounds my property. And yeah, man, my house is kind of crazy. It's all kind of gothic, medieval looking. There's creeping fig that I plant. I'm really big into planting trees and plants. And there's that crazy vine just growing up castles. It's totally covering my house. There's just exotic trees everywhere. It's really crazy. There's a lot of crazy shit. We see a lot of crazy animals, all kinds of weird shit. But this, even if I wasn't making blades, but it just so happens that I just started making blades, man. But I'm a little bit of a different guy. I've always felt like I didn't quite fit in with society and other things. And so now I'm just kind of being free and being me. And yeah, so is what it is.
So you made the sword with the repurposed crossguard. Just a two-handed like bastard sword. Was that and it looked like from the video, it looked like you made that for somebody or sold it to somebody. Who was that?
Yeah, that bastard sword, or hand and a half sword. I like to use a lot of repurposed materials in my projects. I feel like it takes some of the stuff seems like it just has a soul to it. Like the anchor chain, I've got some of this anchor chain is anywhere from 100 to 200 years old. It's some of it is wrought iron ship anchor chain. The other stuff is like a medium carbon ship anchor chain. I've got just weird shit everywhere. These are real cannonballs off of a real shipwreck. I'm not even supposed to have these. Have them. This is I've had followers reach out with anything weird, all the weird shit you can imagine. They reach out to you and say, hey, do you want this? Do you want this? So I've got quite the collection of really weird shit. Some of it I think is haunted. There's a lot of weird shit that goes on over here. I've got crazy artifacts. But this right here, I've got 2 of these. These are actually cannonballs that were found out in Pensacola Pass after a big hurricane. It unearthed a shipwreck.
Wow.
And on the skeleton of the ship, and I had some guys dove down and got some of these. I've got 2 of these on me, so I'm even wanting to use some of these things. This may be from like the 1400s or the 1600s, man. There's no telling. My shop is just full of crazy, wild shit, and I think it adds a lot of soul and power to these blades. That blade you're talking about, it was a anchor chain, and I made that for Dan Bilzerian. He's kind of a well-known guy. A lot of people either love him or hate him, but he's a cool fella. But yeah, that was a kick-ass sword.
Yeah, he seemed like the kind of guy who was definitely interested in your particular brand. And I've seen a lot of people would be like, see your stuff and be like, yeah, that's what I'm looking for, right? Like the cutlass you made for the Assassin's Creed cosplay, I think it was. That was cool too.
That was, I made that cutlass for a fellow in Virginia, but the one of my friends, she came over to model the blade, so she just showed up in an Assassin's Creed outfit. But I didn't make that out of a video game. That was my rendition of a cutlass. I had a fellow that said, "Hey man, I want a cutlass. Here's artistic freedom. Make me a cutlass." Wow. And yeah,
that was very cool.
What kind of are you more interested in, the creative side or kind of like it's all creative, honestly, but more of like originals, unique stuff with you, which I think you have been, but are you interested in branching out into doing more like replicas? Because there's all kinds of stuff you could do replicas of.
Nah. Original stuff.
I'm not into replicas. I don't give 2 shits about your sword that matches the blah 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 sword, about, because guys, back in the day, I mean, people used to cut their arms and bleed out. It's called bloodletting, to get the infection out of them. They'd actually make themselves anemic and cause more damage. So just because they did it a certain way in the past doesn't mean that's the best way. So, these swords that I make now, if I could go back in time and hand one of these swords to one of these great warlords, it would be a magical sword. It would be a mythical sword. It's just the kind of materials we have access to, and then again with these electronic kilns and being able to totally control each and every aspect of the process. If you know your stuff and you're really pushing it, man. I mean, I'm making legendary blades, and so yeah, sometimes I like the look of some of the older blades, and I definitely may get influenced by it, but I have no interest in trying to go replicate something. For me, that's just someone who's boring and they're looking for something to have a claim to fame, so they got to go replicate something. If you want to do that, do you, but I'd rather fucking swords out of meteorite and put human femur bones on them.
Yeah, I've had a few friends and people say to me, I was like, man, it's Damascus, man. It's Damascus. It's obviously going to be sharper than anything else because it's Damascus. I was like, no, it's just forge welded steel, right? And then etched, right? You need don't just buy it because it's Damascus.
It's all about heat treat. How fine can you get that grain? You want to get that grain as fine as possible. Tie your grain. It's going to take a sharper edge. It's also going to be stronger and more resilient. So you can make that thinner and it won't buckle. It doesn't have to have as much support. That's where it's at, guys. I'm telling you. But it's a lot of money. Someone just getting into the craft, dude, you're going to drop, $15,000 or so to get the correct equipment. That's just to get started. All the professional kilns, professional quench fluid, Rockwell hardness testers. There's a lot to it, guys. And I test different heat cycles, different austenizing temperatures, different quench mediums, snapping after quench to assess the grain structure. Then, tempering as well as differentially tempering. And again, messing with edge geometry and then putting it to use so that I can match up those attributes with what I did to get there. And then I repeat that process. So there's a hell of a lot of science into it, man. If you're really out there hustling, like I said, you can push this craft further than it's ever gone before.
How did you get the red sword? How did you was that a polish, or is that from a specific heat cycle or something?
The red sword, you mean the one that had, there's one that was like a purplish looking blue sword, and there was another one that was actually like a Toluta finish. I've found out certain oils that I can put on swords and then throw them at certain temperatures in the kiln with that total temperature control. I'm able to change the color of the steel.
That was one of the coolest ones. Is that the one I sent you?
Different.
I
The
think
red
so,
one?
yeah.
Oh, that was so cool.
So you can actually change the color of the steel itself?
Yes.
Wow. Is that...
Yep. And then like this latest cleaver that I just did, I don't know if you can see it, probably not. If you look right along this middle, you'll see blue and purple.
That's beautiful. Wow.
So that's no oil there. So on a blade like this right here, the guy I'm making this for is a real wild ass, and he wants a cleaver that he can throw or use to break down he's butchering things. But what I did was after I heat treated this blade, I've got this edge sitting around 61 Rockwell, which is stupid ridiculous for a cleaver, but the grain's so tight it can support that. But then from here up, I differentially temper. So this has been tempered, then differentially tempered from here up. So those are actual temper colors. So I brought that to a purple and a blue. Now, you don't want to do that to an edge because you could be taking out the hardness depending on intended use. But for something like this, I want to. You ever heard of blue backing the spine of a blade? You're applying heat and you're further tempering that blade, but you're reducing hardness. So with this right here, I use temperature to add color.
Is that?
But like I said, guys, there's so much you can do, but everyone's so scared to get out there and just learn shit. Everyone wants, how'd you do that? How'd you do that? Teach right it. Get out there, get on the grind and do some crazy shit. You might discover things that no one else has ever found out. And that's what I do constantly.
Do you have a specific like blade grind that you like? Because that one looks almost flat, but do you prefer like a flat with a secondary bevel or like a convex grind?
So nearly every blade is going to have a secondary bevel. Your secondary bevel in most cases is your sharpened bevel. You got primary jump and then your sharpening bevel. Almost always I'm going to go with the flat ground sharpening bevel just because my heat treat can tolerate that. A lot of these guys will do even these master smiths will do a flat grind and a convex edge. That's bullshit, man. I push it to the max. My stuff's tried and true and it holds up to it. But I will do sometimes you'll see me do some crazy. I'm working on some Serbian cleavers right now that have S grinds. I've never seen anyone put an S grind into a cleaver, but I did. An S grind is where you put a primary, it's almost like a fuller, a huge hollow grind right in the center of the blade. And then from there, I flat grind to the edge or even slightly convex and then do a flat, what you would call a secondary bevel, but almost in that case, it would be a third bevel, I guess. But long story short, blade geometry is a real thing. I used to think people just said blade geometry sound fancy and scientific. No. It's right there. The most important thing, if you got bladesmiths or whatever watching this, is heat treat, grain, structure, and heat treat. That's number one. Number two is geometry. Number three, I'd say, would be construction. Number four is sharpness. Sharpness, when sharp appears, you're relying on your edge geometry. Edge geometry so much, guys. And again, everything affects the way that blade cuts.
Okay, could you for me who doesn't know much of anything about blade geometry, could you explain, okay, so when you're creating the edge of a blade, so like you cut pigs in half pretty often on your Instagram. It's crazy. You got flames behind you. It's wild. But when you cut them in half, what kind of blade, what's the term I'm looking for? Shape?
Yeah.
The blade shape, I guess, that you need to be able to cut through something like that.
Like, are you talking about like the blade itself or the sword shape? Like the blade?
Yeah.
Well, again, to do that, starts with heat treat. Depending on how the grain is, that's going to limit you on how sharp you can get that blade, right? It's also going to limit how fine the edge without it chipping or even rolling. So with those hog videos, a lot of that stuff, it's either flat grinds or convex, usually a combination of the two. But again, it's the heat treat, it's the geometry, it's sharpness, and it's also the end user. If we go stick one of these blades into someone that doesn't really know what they're doing, not everyone's going to be able to chop a 300-pound hog in half in one swing. You got to be a little bit of an animal too. So.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm curious, did working as a nurse, like as far as the skills and maybe the thinking process that you had, I know it comes over into your work now, but did some specific skills working as a nurse transfer that you actually are like, well, I didn't know I would be using this skill, but I still do it every day, you know?
Maybe, attention to detail, and also troubleshooting. As the nurse manager and as the charge nurse, I was responsible for all these other nurses and every patient in the unit. And I'd even help the doctors out with a lot of the critical stuff and what we'd be doing. And so it was a lot of thinking on my feet, moving fast. Sometimes just any decision is better than no decision, because what I do is the difference between someone living or dying. And serious wild ass shit. So dealing with that, I think becoming a MacGyver, it's definitely helped me to work under pressure. So that's what you saw there in the Forged in Fire. After working for 12 years as a critical care nurse, the shit that I've seen would make most people just blow their minds. So I think even something working on a Forged in Fire set, nothing compared to a night in the ICU of running a critical care unit. But I think that kind of attitude has really helped me do it. And then two, don't get me started, but the politics and the bullshit comes with nursing, corporate malpractice. A lot of these hospitals don't seem to care too much about the patients. It's all about the dollar. So a lot of nurses are short-staffed, and just it's a sad state of affairs. So nursing has helped me because I don't want to go back to nurse.
Have you had any injuries on the forge? Any mishaps or anything like that?
You can't see it in the dark, man, but I'm sliced up and cut up and burnt up. My arms are just covered with scars. I mean, there's things in different stages of healing all over, man. But I've gotten to the point now I don't even really feel it when I get burnt. I don't even give a shit. I just keep going. But I think it comes with the job. If you're going to be a bladesmith, you're going to get cut. You're going to get burnt. You just better always wear your safety glasses and some breathing protection, whether you got an air scrubber or you're wearing respirator, and just don't be stupid. I think of every way when I come out here and work, I think of how that machine can possibly kill me, and I try not to do that.
Yeah.
So I always realize danger's there and trying to prevent it. But I mean, stuff happens. I mean, I got a fillet knife shoved into my arm a couple days ago. It went in about 3 inches of my arm. That did not feel good, but yeah, try to learn from it, but you got to respect the blades.
Yeah.
That's nuts. So looking into the future, because we're getting kind of close to wrapping with you, looking into the future, I know you said you want to be the best in the world. What kind of projects do you sort of see maybe in the near future that you're comfortable talking about, or that things that you just want to work on? Like, do you want to make a sword that's worth $20 million? Like, what's kind of the goal that you're working up toward, you know?
Well, I'm actually about to be working on a sword that's going to be worth probably about $100,000. The amount of sapphires and black diamonds I'm putting into the sword costs more than most people's vehicles. Mine include. Luckily, I've had some pretty extraordinary people that have found me and that love what I do. And, with those people, that's the thing, not everyone has the chance to do that. But when you meet the right people, certain clients and friends, people I've become friends with, like I said, we're going to be putting the kind of stuff that's going to be going to this current sword is just absolutely phenomenal. But again, pushing it, starting to do more mosaic stuff, pushing my skills, just everything, just learning every day. I don't really have any desire to track down the ABS stuff, the American Bladesmith Society. Again, some of that shit too. I feel like it's people that need some kind of a claim to fame. So they want to be part of this little fan club. And it actually just kind of just makes me angry because no one helps me. No one showed me shit. And, a lot of these master bladesmiths, they all hang out together and teach each other. And so I'm out here in the trenches teaching myself and just pushing it. But again, every day, make every blade better than the last blade you made. I'm going to be doing this straight up sword out of meteorite Damascus, and then working on that. And then I'm tackling a traditional katana build, but I'm going to do 1 million layers. Wow. I'm going to make 1 million layers of death Damascus. So that's going to be a lot of work, pushing those skills. Any step along the way when you're setting those forge welds, you can destroy that blade. So 1 million layers, that's a lot of stacks. I've never seen anyone do 1 million layers other than Alex Still, and he made a karambit about that big. Mm-hmm. I want to make a full size katana. So that's in the works too. And again, this is going to be coming to my YouTube channel, Pirate Forge. It's just a balancing family life, making blades to sell, to pay the bills, and then making the media production stuff for YouTube. So again, just trying to balance it all out. It'd be nice to get to that one point where the media stuff pays the bills, YouTube or whatever pays the bills, because then I can really show you guys what I want. And if I get to that point, it will be absolutely crazy. Yeah.
Well, if you keep going the way you're going, putting that stuff on YouTube, you're going to blow up. I mean, the stuff you're making is seriously cool.
Yeah.
Seriously cool.
And we already, like I said, you do not hold back at all when it comes to production value. You're going all out, man. Yeah. And it's great. It's refreshing to see someone who's passionate not only about their craft, but about how they present their craft. So I think it's awesome. Also, I'm a big fan of piracy, huge fan of piracy. And so anything with a pirate brand out there, I might be a fan of if you do a good job. And Wayne does an incredible job. Best I've seen.
Thanks.
So I guess we'll kind of close it out. Go ahead and plug the stuff you want people to follow you at, and then we'll close it out.
Pirate Forge. Again, my name's Wayne Meligan. You can search that. I'm on Facebook, Instagram. I had a TikTok that had 90,000 followers, but they deleted that. So don't get me started with those people. But I did make a new one of those. But biggest thing is the YouTube and Instagram. Follow me there at Pirate Forge. And like I said, I appreciate it, guys. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah.
We're really thankful that you were here.
Yeah, very thankful. Hey,
it was really cool.
You honestly are you're teaching us so much, and just you talking to us and taking time out of your day means a whole lot.
Yeah.
If you guys are fans of blades collecting, or you're like Wyatt, who's just like he's just in the process of learning, he's just obsessed with blades. Go look at this guy's social medias, buy something from him. Just do it. Drop some money. It's going to be worth it. As you saw, he goes all out. But yeah, support him. Buy his stuff. Follow him. It's great. And while you're here, subscribe to this channel, and then go right over and subscribe to Pirate Forge on YouTube, because he's got a YouTube as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Rock on. Later.
All right.